Hi, my name is Josh Tiessen, and I'm sitting here in my studio in Stony Creek. Well, waiting is essential to my creative process as an artist. Knowing that my paintings take hundreds of hours to complete, I've had to grow in patience that they're going to turn out. Now that I've been painting full time for almost 15 years and I've completed many, many works, I've grown in trust in my creative process. And so even when a painting is looking kind of rough or there's problems that still need to be fixed, I just keep on working patiently, hoping that they'll eventually be resolved in the end. Well, I wish it was always that easy in my own life, whether it be still waiting to get married or waiting to be able to buy my own home despite the housing crisis, or maybe even more importantly, waiting to see Christ face to face someday when all my nagging doubts will cease. The word Advent comes from the Latin adventus, which means coming. And historically, in the church season of Advent, it was a time to reflect on sorrow and loss to contrast the glorious day of Christmas, the light that was coming and new beginnings. This paralleled the winter season when the trees lose their colorful leaves and the sun sets early, leaving us in the cold, dark, and silent winter. But we look forward to after December 22nd when the days start getting longer and the sun returns. Well, in my paintings, I often depict a menagerie of wild creatures. In recent years, it dawned on me that Jesus came into this world cradled in an animal feeding trough. He was probably surrounded by oxen and sheep and other farm animals. His public ministry began out in the wilderness when he was surrounded by the desert creatures, maybe vultures and viper snakes. And then his last time entering the city of Jerusalem for his triumphal entry, he was riding on the back of the donkey, of course. Well, throughout my body of work, the theme of creation's longing for redemption, articulated in Romans chapter 8, has really been a major inspiration for me. I wondered if the animals that journeyed with Christ, when they looked into his face, also felt a sense of hopeful longing. Leading up to Christ's arrival, the Israelites experienced 400 years of God's silence, just darkness and incredible persecution under the Greco-Roman Empire and occupation. Yet they held on to God's promises, eagerly expecting the arrival of the Messiah. It's sometimes difficult for me when I look around in the broken world that we live in today to have hope. But I'm reminded throughout scripture of all the times that God was faithful to those who waited. And I also remind myself of the times that God has come through for me in my own life. I find hope in the Apostle Paul's words to the church in Corinth. For now we see through glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Each of our lives is really a canvas that God is painting. Admittedly, at times it feels like that canvas is messy and chaotic. Not that unlike what Mary and Joseph probably experienced in Bethlehem when there was no place for them to stay and they ended up having to give birth to their son in a cave like stable. But the question I leave for us to ponder is whether we will trust God to make a masterpiece of our own stories, of our own lives, just like he did with the humble baby born in a manger who was crucified and raised back to life as the king of creation.